allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Of course, the camera's not working. We're just going to navigate through this because now the camera's not working. Oh, start video. That's me, showing me.
We good?
Carry on, my wayward son.
We already did the Pledge of Allegiance. It wasn't recorded, but I promise we did. As long as you can hit the record button, even if there's no video.
It is recording, and
Okay.
It did record the.
There's that. Excellent. So we will start with public comments.
Hello, Leah McHugh, Harvey Road. So we are starting with warrant article discussion and budget. So I wanted to pop up here and hopefully get a couple things just mulling around in your mind. Amber talked last week about losing a lot of grant money due to COVID. We're going into like the fourth year post-COVID or the school shutting down. So my question is, how much longer will summer school regular cycle? I know it's wanted, it's needed, but it is an extra expense that we should be thinking about as we lose that grant money towards COVID-related extension of programs. The other thing I really wanted to bring up was curriculum spending. So educational technology subscriptions were around 27,789. I know that we're looking at Chromebook updates, computers, or ThinkPads. I'm not sure what specific updates are needed, but I did want to remind you, and I know Zach will probably bring it up, that we do have the Replacing and Repairing Technology Expendable Trust Fund. There's only a little over 21,000 in there. It has probably gone up a little bit since then, but that's something to be thinking about. I know we've heard from staff in the past when the budget hasn't passed, and their ability to obtain specific materials, perhaps on what they need for their specific curriculum. So I would like to either propose or have you guys think about a specific budget line. I don't know where, say a teacher needs specific supplies, where they would pull from or how that process works. But perhaps there being some sort of backup for them that it would carry over in the default so that they're not, not able to purchase books or something. Because that's been something that's been brought up quite a few times over the years. And that's it. Wish you luck with this budget.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, we have an official time.
Yeah, I got a timer so that people can see it too.
Oh, I can.
Go.
Go.
Greg Whitmore, North Road. So coming up on mid-November, and just wondering what's holding up the high school decision. I mean, I think we all know it's Concord at this point. Back to the drawing board with them. And I just want to remind you that we're the ones bringing the students, we're the ones bringing the money. So, I mean, we really have all the negotiating power, especially considering we have one school who said they'll take all of our students if necessary, and we have PA step up. So we already have two options. I mean, let's just get it done. Families are desperate to know what's going to happen. I know a lot of families even take it upon themselves to start calling Co-Brown and just see what it would take for them to get in, and some people are even thinking they might have to pay it themselves at this point. So we just need to know. I was actually curious about the educational technology subscriptions also. Are we buying curriculum? Yeah. I mean, I would think that, teachers nowadays have to be HQT and master's degrees. I would think that we would be able to trust them to design appropriate content for their classrooms. So I don't know why we're spending that sort of money buying curriculum. I would put my trust in the teachers to do that. And a while ago, I brought up the trailers and how I was concerned about how we have little kids given a key to the school and when they go to the bathroom. Have we ever considered moving, certain administration out there and just turning those into administrative offices? I know other schools have done this. So whatever it takes to keep the kids safe and just eliminate that awful awful situation we have where we got to send them outside. So something to keep in mind moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be quick. Hi, I'm Bobby Ann Dosty from 5 Brown Road. I'm switching gears. I know I always talk about high school choice and all that, but, and Miss Whitney's awesome. But, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the new school lunch account, so where you put your money for your children. It did change over the summer, and the new system doesn't show you what your child is picking for their options. I know I'm like a super hover mom, but I liked seeing what my kids were picking because I can encourage them to make better choices. The new system doesn't do that. I know that Zach has mentioned upping the rate for lunches. The only issue with that is I know that it's really hard with public schools. Like I said, I've been to a whole slew of them, over 30 of them. A lot of the milks and certain items have been expired when my children get them. So I was taking pictures, my son's brought it home, but like, if you're gonna up the rate of lunches, then make sure that things aren't expired, and like, you probably wanna up the quality of the food that you're gonna do, because I know parents are gonna get a little upset with you upping the rate if the quality of food is so poor. Just some things to think about. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Linda McNair, you know my name, Linda McNair Perry, 14 Range Road. I may not be as brief because I wanted to discuss some things that I had seen on between Facebook postings and actually having attended the select board meeting where they did set the new tax rate. So I guess I wanted to point out that I did some math literally on the back of an envelope to point out that the biggest increase is not the school, it is the town. The town rate has gone from $1.80 to $4.54. So yeah, so I thought there were some people that probably didn't know that. And that's a 152% increase. The school rate went, and local education rate went from, give me a second here, went from, where am I going? Oh, this is last year, sorry. Went from 1563, I believe it was. No, that's going to be this year. So 1563 was would be the tax rate for this year, and that's a 7.8% increase. So it's not. I mean, it went up $1.13. Again, the town went up $2.74. So the big driver is not the school this year. And as I looked at last year's, the local school was 79 point some odd % of the tax bill. And this tax cycle is 60, just shy of 69% of the tax bill. So I thought that it was important that people understand that, because I'm hearing an awful lot of rumblings, and I think it's a great deal of misinformation. And I was in the meeting, reading the rates that were listed in the meeting minutes as well. So this is not something I pulled out. Just wanted you to know that.
Thank you.
And by the way, I think you did an impressive job on the amount of work that you did this last year with the 7.8% increase. So
Thank you.
appreciate your efforts.
Other public comments? Okay, we will move on to agenda review. It is a fairly brief agenda, which does not mean there won't be long discussions, but there are a few items. I am going to add a discussion about solar before we talk about the fiscal year update, just to respect Chris's time, he's gonna present some information about the solar project. It will be part of the warrant article discussion, but Chris's part, we're gonna move to the beginning of the agenda.
Good evening.
Anyone else have anything, sorry,
Oh,
anyone
that's
else have
okay.
anything to add to the agenda? Okay, the floor is yours.
All right, very good. Good evening. I believe the RFP was posted for your view. Wondering if you had any comments or questions or concerns with it right now. I'm working with Clean Energy New Hampshire, who's giving me some guidance on the RFP. I've sent that to them. They're looking at it and giving me back little comments and suggestions that I should change to clean it up and just make it a better RFP. Hope to get all that buttoned up and the final RFP completed by early next week to send out and have Amber, to Amber, have her look it over and then get it posted for people to start bidding on. Have a list of contractors that I believe you guys were loaded up to the drive.
And did those, did that list, was that, were those things you came up with? Was it the energy committee that gave suggestions? I know you attended the energy.
A little of both. 2 weeks ago, I attended the clean energy seminar. Ones that we've already heard from, which were Revision and Barrington Power. Also spoke with 603 Granite State Solar. I met the gentleman from Seventh Generation and a local contractor that does solar energy, Porter Electric. So those three were just two other avenues.
Chris, could you just explain to me? I don't know what Liberty Utilities is. Is that something new? I guess I'm.
Did you see that in my RFP?
Yeah, it's in your.
Yeah, you know what? I caught that today too. That's gonna be changed.
Okay,
Yes.
because I looked it up and I'm like, I don't know who
Yeah,
these
no,
guys are.
that was my
Okay.
bad. I missed that one.
No worries.
So have you done or have the solar companies done, you've got a 300 kilowatt system size here.
Yep.
What percentage, will that cover 100% of our usage?
That is the intention.
It is.
I'm basing my specifications off of two rough estimates given by Revision Energy and Barrington Energy. One proposes 415 panels and the other proposes 413 panels. So they're right on line, but a big difference in cost. 500, about 500,000 in cost.
Yeah, we don't want to get into numbers necessarily.
Right, okay. So I'm just basing it off of what, if I took all of our New Hampshire Electrical Co-op meters, combine those for a year, and that's what I'm basing the 300,000 off of. Yep.
And I like that you put in, for it to be a project or a power purchase. You're asking for bids for both, so it's great.
What's that?
You're asking for bids for both, like a project if we were to do it or if it was a power purchase.
Correct,
Right.
yes.
Can you, I'm sorry, I should know more about solar and I admittedly don't. What is the difference between a project and a power purchase? Like, I've heard that there are ways to get solar cheaper to start and then maybe you buy things later. I don't really know what the process.
Power
might-
purchase agreement is that we are teaming up with an outside investor that gives the money upfront, the cost of the project, and they get all the credits or refunds back to them for a set period, usually 5 years. And then at a predetermined price, we buy the panels and the system, and we take full control of the system back at that date. If we go to a turnkey project, we are looking at and making the upfront investment into the project.
But then we would get the credits.
We would get
and-
everything
Can we-
start rolling.
Can we get the credits?
Yes, my understanding is that we can get the credit.
Okay.
Yes,
And
Yeah.
then, so another difference between the two is with the power purchase, we lock into a a purchase price on our power for that 5 years as well. So we're
Correct.
buying our power back,
Correct,
power we're generating back at a reduced rate.
yes.
So what we're gonna wanna
I
look at is after the bids come back, what we really wanna do, take the time is to figure out is, do we make do we propose the initial investment up front, which we would see greater savings from after making the investment, but we need to figure out what the return on that investment is based on what we're spending on utilities versus, are we better to ease ourselves into this and spend the next, say, 5 years, putting a little bit of extra money aside on an annual basis, and then buying the system out at the end of the 5-year
Like the
period?
money that we save, we could put aside into an account to then.
I
Yeah.
see.
Or
fund warrant articles
For
from
fund a warrant
surplus.
article, to say the next 5 years, to build up the reserves over a 5-year period, to then buy it in the meantime while still saving money annually on the utilities.
I see.
So by proposing, we see it both ways. It gives us an opportunity to look at it and figure out where the cost benefit analysis is going to work.
Got it. Cool.
I was wondering about one thing, Chris. You have qualified interested parties is the first paragraph for roof and ground mounted solar array. I know we had kind of talked about maybe if you could do it all roof, we'd do it all roof. So is that clear enough in there? That it could be just roof? Or if it can't just be all roof, we'd add some ground mounted?
Can you put 300 kilowatts on this?
What?
Can you put a 300
That's the
kilowatt
question.
system on the
He's
roof?
not sure they can because you.
I'm not
because
sure
it's-
because the one picture that I received back or drawing, they included the south side sloped roof of the gym, and that is not solar ready. We only originally planned for on the flat roof.
Okay.
So you've taken that away, and this is just based on revisions numbers. We don't reach the 300,000 kilowatts. That's why I added in the back panels on the athletic field behind the garage for the ground mounted ones to make sure. I mean, if for some reason we can and they take a deeper look at what we can put up there,
Yeah.
it's gonna be the school board's decision how far we wanna go with it.
And the flip side of that is if we can reduce our usage by 70% or 60%, we've still reduced our usage by, on false, 60 or 70%. It's still a positive thing. So if we can't get, if we decide we only want to use it for the solar and not do ground mounted systems, even if we're not getting,
Yeah, we're not doing it 100%. We're still reducing a lot.
we're still reducing, tremendously.
Right? Yeah, that makes sense. Because supposedly the ground mount is a lot more expensive.
Yeah, well, that, and then you still have to get it tied into
Right.
into everything else.
Yeah.
You know,
Now that we paved everything.
actually, no, that part you'd have to cut across. We have to pay.
Okay.
So, just be another incision back there. And actually, we have extra conduits.
We did.
We did sleeve extra conduits.
Yeah. So the conduit is-
First thing Chris does when there's a hole in the ground, put extra conduit.
Play it. I like it.
So, we wouldn't necessarily have to tear up the inside, but it certainly looks like a good start to
Yeah.
everything.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Thank you for attending the
So,
Conservation Committee. That was
Yeah,
very
no, that was
helpful.
great, good.
so do we need to see a final bid package beforehand, before we publish anything? Or do we take action and Amber and Chris the ability to sort it out, or? how do you want to
What
do
else
that?
would we need to see for a final bid package? I mean,
The language that I'm gonna add is really not gonna change. It's more specific, asking for more specific, like your question, whether we separate it from just give me an add all for the hillside, the ground mount, or we just stay with the flat roof. So it would be like that, wording like that.
I would think that we'd want to have it worded so that we would want the maximum array that we can fit on the flat roof. And then anything else we would want is adders. So if you had to do a
Yeah,
ground mount,
that's a good way to put it.
but I think you want to spec it. So what goes on the roof is what we're most interested in, and the size that we can get out of that. And obviously the contractor should be able to come out and survey the roof and look at what they can fit.
Yep.
But that's, I think, the first focus, and then anything beyond that would be adults on how we work with that.
Do you, does the board want to designate Zach as the facilities rep on the board to be the person that sort of reviews, just to make sure if you guys are all set with it? I'm fine with that. I don't have anything
Well,
else.
based on your knowledge of solar,
Yeah. I don't have much else to add to the discussion, so I'm happy to have Zach be the final
yeah, I can take
reviewer.
a last look at it with Chris before, probably before it goes to Amber or after it goes to Amber.
We're at the same time.
Same time.
Send it to
Yeah,
both of
What's
you.
this?
When you get them all wrapped up and ready to go to Amber, just shoot them to me at the same time and I'll go through.
Yeah.
This time.
I'll send it to him.
Cool.
Thank you.
Any other discussion about that? Okay,
Awesome.
great.
Thank
Thank you, Chris.
Appreciate it.
Good night.
You too.
Okay, we are on to the fiscal 24 update.
So keeping in mind that we are still really early in the school year, you're at minus 215,000 right now, or 213, I should say. So the good news is we would have enough in the trust fund to cover if we were there. We hardly ever spend every penny that we have, so that's really worst case scenario right now. But we are monitoring and adjusting POs on a monthly basis and watching your budget very closely. And we do have I'll call it a soft freeze, because when it's a hard freeze, Amber takes everybody's permissions away to do anything. And right now, it's just Kristen and I and Trish and I going back and forth about what we're gonna get and what we're not gonna get. So we'll continue to do that unless you,
And
So the negative 215 is a projection
yes,
based on,
what we know right now.
okay,
Yeah, so it's early. I mean,
and that
a lot of
overage
things can change.
is, the overage is primarily due to special education, I believe.
is that 213 putting the retainage back in?
No,
So we have retainage.
we have retainage
We
and
have
trust,
retainage
yeah.
and the trust.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit of cushion.
So we have,
We're okay.
okay, in the, how much is
Right
in the
now.
special ed trust fund? We put 100,000 in last year. It is exactly.
Retainage was what, a little over 200?
The retainage was like 230, 260.
We can't use that till the trust fund's gone, I think,
219, so you have.
just because
Just.
Can we use,
it's like we planned.
to Nate's extent, do we have to use the trust fund before we use the retainage?
No.
No, the retainage goes back in at the end of the year.
That, I think that used to be the rule.
And-
There was legislative changes a number of years ago.
Yeah.
To make the retainage
The
easier to
downfall
use.
is if we don't have any money to retain, we
Right.
don't have any projected money for warrant articles.
Right,
So any warrant articles are gonna need to be from new money. And at the end of the year, we potentially, like we had a couple of years ago, with the $1 million warrant article, wouldn't be able to have any money retained for a future year, which,
There's a lot of movement in a school year with students coming and going, so this is just very variable at this
Yeah.
moment, so we're just
Still
watching it. It is very early. We could have a huge swing in lots of different areas, like health insurance plans, all of that, special ed, transportation, we have,
Needing a long-term sub for some reason.
Yep. so we're just watching it very carefully.
Okay, well, with that, as our intro, we'll move on to the budget for next year.
All right, so your budget increase right now, total budget is 8.97, operating budget 8.53, default budget. Total budget increase is 13.5%, operating budget, and 12.71 default budget. Not taking the warrant articles, the first number is taking the 700,000 warrant articles into consideration. What Amber put in the packet for you is a revised operating budget, default budget, and food service budget. There's revised budget rosters, both operating and defaults. She did add the FTE numbers that Zach asked for in the rosters. There's a co-curricular athletic and technology data sheet. There's a district assessment breakdown, and there's your trust funds. So that's just a summary of what's in here. So, expenses that were added, Amber just wanted a placeholder in the tuition just to get something in your budget. This is a complete shot in the dark. We know the Concord numbers are going to go up. She has 16,305 in here, and a little bit of an increase on the capital fee, but we just don't know what that number's gonna be. And then she targeted 55 students for Co-Brown. Again, it is just a number at this point. We have no idea what it's gonna be.
I mean, do
But
we
we
even
do
have?
have Co-Brown's tuition. That is their tuition for next year. It's with Co-Brown, the variable is how many students, but that is their tuition number. We do not have Concord's tuition number, and we have Pembroke's tuition number, but since we haven't done choice yet, we don't know how many students would go there, so I didn't put any in there for right now.
And it's lower than.
It's
Yeah,
lower,
it's
so
gonna
this
be
is.
like 15,000, I think.
So this is sort of, if this projection, not projection, I've used that word very loosely. This
Estimate.
placeholder
Yeah.
number is based on the entirety of the 8th graders going to Co-Brown.
Yep.
So that's sort of
Well,
worst case scenario
The ones
in
that are-
terms
it's
of,
based on
money.
55 students going to Co-Brown.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's the number of 8th graders, but if you had students transitioning from
sure,
one school over to another and all that stuff, so it's really 55 students at Co-Brown.
I mean, we don't wanna just make up numbers, but at
Right.
the same time, I don't have real numbers, so
The,
she just did a little bit of a percentage increase at Concord. I do not believe that is going to end up being the number, but I don't know what it is.
I mean, the number for Concord is, obviously Co-Brown's number is what it
They
is.
set theirs already, or
Right.
they gave us their
The
estimate.
number of students at Co-Brown, there's probably a discussion that could be had about that.
Well, yeah, it's just that's a high estimate,
Right.
right?
But the tuition rate at Concord, I think, is probably lower than what we
Yes,
will.
this is very low.
Yes.
It's a
This is-
balance. I mean, you're not gonna, I have no idea at this point, but I don't think every 8th grader is going to choose to go to Co-Brown. And I don't think Concord's tuition number is gonna be that low, so.
Right.
We're somewhere in the middle.
What worries me is we put a number together because these numbers need to pass through, the tuition numbers are gonna carry in default as well as the operating. But if we don't get it sorted out with Concord early enough, having a number that's woefully low for Concord and having an expense that's significantly higher, and then that affecting how we operate elsewhere.
Yeah, you absolutely need those numbers to be real very soon.
Because
Yes.
we have to pay the tuition. So.
First,
Yes, tuition in special education is funded first, so the students that are affected are the students that are here.
Yes.
If we're wrong.
so it is my sincere hope that we are able to get a number from Concord before we finalize our budget. If that is not looking like it's practical, and my ideal situation would be to actually have students choosing their school before we finalize the budget. If we can't do that, numbers wise or contract finalizing wise, I don't think we have another option but to send out another poll since everyone got to go to the schools and rank where they would like to go, so that we could at least have some idea for the budget.
On this first year with the volatility that may be in place, I think carrying the worst case scenario financially is absolutely what we should do for Co-Brown. So I agree with that figure.
Yeah.
I worry about the other figure and how that's impacted, because that figure could be much closer to Co-Brown's figure.
Oh, yeah, I don't think this
And
number is
so-
particularly realistic.
No, and so that's what worries me, and that is, is, we have 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And in 2 weeks, I think we should have a discussion is, should we carry Concord's number to be, if the absolute worst case scenario is, we know that Concord's number won't be higher than Co-Brown's. Or at least,
Do we?
I don't think it will be. But should we carry that figure as the tuition rate for all, 200 kids, whatever, it's just under 190 kids. Should we be carrying that figure as a worst case scenario? Do we have enough funding for high school, given the circumstances this year, so that in the event we don't get it sorted out before the budget has to be dealt with, because it has hard dates coming up,
For sure.
we've covered budgetarily our obligation, our potential obligation for high school. And then we're not running the risk of having to fund high school out of the money that is allocated for elementary or K. I'm throwing it out there, I'm not.
Yeah,
This isn't how you run a school district, but the worst case is not, I don't think, the 2-week deadline that we have in front of us. I mean, I think last chance is the deliberative session. We can go into the deliberative session, we can propose changes to, if we have more information at that point, that becomes really the last time that we can change the budget, if the legislative.
yeah, I mean, I
Fair
think
enough.
that's right.
Fair enough.
If we,
However, I don't know what that does to your question, your idea, would that flow for putting that value into default budget, which can't be changed in the deliberative session? That's the one where I think we have.
And that's frankly, that's the budget we'll get.
That's the concerning one. Would that logic, would
Right.
Amber be able to use that to build the default budget?
Whatever number we're putting in the budget, I think, because we have to use a good faith estimate, is the same number that's going in default.
Is the capital fee based on tuition? The tuition rate?
The capital fee?
No.
No, there's a calculation for it. But
I mean, I've made it abundantly clear what your deadlines are, Concord, yeah, many times, so.
yeah, I mean, we are, I don't know, Zach, if that would fly as a good faith estimate to
Oh.
put Co-Brown as for every single student, because we do have a good chunk of students at Concord. Could Concord charge the same amount?
Well, it's an additional 360,000.
You're doing what I was
I
just
did the
about to
math,
do.
360,000, so that's the addition.
If we did the
If we did all of them.
Co-Brown for
Co-Brown.
all students?
Yes.
if you just
For the
took that-
Co-Brown rate, no.
The Co-Brown rate for all students. It doesn't mean that that's where all students are gonna go,
Sure.
but I think the Concord rate's gonna be very similar to the Co-Brown rate, maybe, I don't know.
It's not,
I do not know.
You don't have much to base that on.
I just worry about taking services away from the kids here.
I totally agree with you. I think that is a safer number than what's currently.
Or somewhere in between, maybe we split the difference.
I mean, the 16,000 is based on something, but whether they hold to it.
I don't think, you don't need to do anything with this tonight. I
Right.
think we need to wait and see if before the next meeting we get what we need.
Speaking.
And if we get, hopefully we get what we need and you can make decisions
Yes,
based
And
on
we need the kids' ranked
actual
choice.
information.
Can we get the kids' ranked choice now, or are we still waiting to hear from?
That's up to the board. If you want us to send that out to families, we can do that. I
think it would help us.
mean, you
a
need,
ton.
we're gonna need a commitment and they wanna know where they're going to school, so. I don't know if that helps or makes it worse.
so to those watching or here, just know that when you look at this line, I wouldn't read into it too much. There's so much fluctuation that will happen just to this line in the next several weeks.
I don't think it's gonna go down.
It will not go down.
That's a lot of kids.
It's not, it absolutely is
There's a
not
lot of
going
kids
down.
that pick Pembroke.
Unless the majority of children take Pembroke. But you're right, it will not go down. So,
So it's at least a $500,000 increase.
The other variable we
Yes.
don't know is CRTC. If that's
Does that
included, not
become extra,
included, I
right?
don't know. I don't know, we don't. Until you work it out with their board, we just don't know.
And they just had to change their board, right? They just had,
they just had
Elections,
elections
right.
last week.
Right.
Yes.
So in terms of what, well, I agree, there's not much we can do about that line right now. So
Yes.
I think for right now, the question is, as we look at the rest of the budget, are there other things that we want to, steps we want to take to try to scale back the increase that we're looking at.
Can I just tell you what the other two changes are that we made, and then
Please.
you can kind of go however you want to go forward. On page 15 and 16, the health insurance was updated. You got your actual numbers, and your increase was 9.9%. And that, again, is due to the utilization. So they were all in a big pool, and then they look at how Deerfield in particular utilized their insurance last year, and that's what our increase is based on. So the health insurance, the last budget, Amber had put in 8%, and it was budgeted at 1.708809. So now it's 1.738872, the actual increase. And then certified and non-certified increase pool has been added, and just a reminder that you got a default budget, you don't get those increases added to the defaults. And then page 17, the transfer for food service was updated to include a pool of salary increases. And that's also not part of the default for the food service budget. I think those are the only changes she made from your notes. All right, what do people want to talk about?
I will start by looking at, so I was playing with some numbers. I am working on a presentation to share with the community, sort of breaking down the budget, what makes up the budget, what are the categories that make up the budget, and the increases to the budget. So obviously, special ed has gone up quite a bit. I am concerned, though, that we haven't factored in the discrepancies between how much special ed costs at each of the different schools, because we haven't dealt with that yet, right? We've been dealing with special ed at Concord for 20 years. So I don't know if we want to discuss that, and maybe we can't discuss it, or maybe it's not anything that we'll be able to add or subtract from, but
Is that,
special ed transportation, I want to make sure that we have enough funding if we're going to multiple schools.
We can't do anything, and that's another critical piece to this. We can't do
Yeah.
anything until we know which
Right.
students are going to which schools, because we have extensive experience with the special ed department in Concord. We kind of know now, when Lisa sits down to do the estimates for Concord, we know, oh, it's gonna need that program, that's gonna be approximately this much. So we need to know specifically which students are going to which school, and then estimate the services at that school for each of
Right.
those students. So
And for like
we don't have that information.
transportation, it wasn't always, special ed transportation wasn't always, I think, included in IEPs because they could take the regular bus to Concord. So that might be a big change to IEPs if it now has to be included.
I don't think it's included. I think it's by regulation.
Okay.
But I think what Jess said, if a student is receiving services, that's on those days
Okay.
that you have to get them there to do that.
But I'm concerned about that. As another area where the budget has a potential to increase even further, and on top of the high increase that's already in the budget. I think that alone, special ed alone was up over 700,000.
I don't, I've gone through it a number of times. And I don't see anywhere where I think we could trim anything. My concern is that there's places where it's not sufficient.
Yes.
But the question is do we gamble and do we leave it as it is and send it? Or do we pad it where we need to pad it? Or do we use more articles to help hopefully bolster reserves and services?
Is it the tuition line you're most concerned about, the uncertainty in that line?
The tuition line, there's some concerns with the transportation line. Normally, that's a place that I've historically gone to and tried to find a way to save a little monies in transportation. I don't think that's gonna be the case this year.
I did want to discuss when we're discussing warrant articles, whether we establish a trust fund for transportation, which I don't know if we can fully fund this year, given the current budget status, but so like, we have been budgeting for a certain number of buses when we knew, like, yes, this is what we need, but what is available is a different amount than that. So do we have a trust fund and then try to budget more realistically to what's available? And then if a bus happens to become available halfway through the year, we have a trust fund to pay for that fund.
I understand your thought process. My concern, by budgeting for, say, 7 buses, even if we only use 6, we've contracted for 7 buses. That number now gets to stay in default.
Right.
If we budget for 5 and that budget passes, now that's the budget that's in default. Now you're forced to draw for that fund when you have 6 or 7 buses.
And that could be for like multiple years.
It could happen for 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 years in case once it happens. So that would be a concern that I
Fair.
have.
That's very fair.
With that approach.
Yeah, I mean, if we did create a transportation warrant article, I wouldn't want to cut the budget this year. Because if that warrant article is not approved, then we've cut the funding and also don't have a trust fund. So that would be doubly bad.
Can I just ask, like, why is the high school transportation, people transportation? Why is it up 47,199? And then special ed is up 124,350. On page 14.
Transportation is based on current student need. So based on what we know right now.
So the 47,199 is for DCS?
Line of what page you- oh, that's the increase to DCS.
Yeah, that's the increase because of the new contract, the new bus contract. That should be, that is, yes, that could be, there's also potentially McKinney-Vento transportation too, included in those numbers. If it's
Yeah,
not-
she does
If
break
it's not a
those two
special
down.
education student, then it would be in the regular transportation.
And then
line.
is the big increase in the special ed budget because of students going somewhere different?
It could be, or it could be students that didn't require it to come here and now do a number of things.
Okay, because I mean, that's a pretty big increase.
Yep.
It's an incredibly big increase.
I feel like the uncertainty that we're dealing with, all we can do is hope to have more certainty next meeting when we, right? I mean, that's really, a lot of the stuff you're getting at, Zach, I don't know that we can address with any certainty, and certainly if we're going to convince voters to support the budget, we need to have it based on some level of certainty, right? But I think what we can in this meeting address is maybe questions that are sort of larger in scope, like for instance, given this increase, do we want to target what we do know about as a way of cutting down the budget? are we, is anybody on the board interested in making cuts in other places to try to keep the increase small? Or are we going to be supporting in all the other places other than the high school question, transportation has evolved?
Special education.
Yeah, right, all those things that we don't know about or else we can't touch, there are things that we can cut.
Mhm.
Do we have any interest on the board in making cuts there?
I would say I'd be interested in a discussion for sure.
So if we talk about those cuts, if we're not doing anything as it pertains to high school, transportation and special education, what does that leave? DCS regular ed students. So if we ask a 30,000-foot question, do you want to reduce positions? Is it the only places where you can save real money is you cut positions. So that's one. You start cutting programming, would be two.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're pulling nickels and dimes out of the budget, but
Right.
it's not gonna get you.
Well, like, I was thinking about what Greg said about some of the programs, but when you look at it, really the only thing we have new is the math program that they bought, right? And then literacy, the budget for the literacy stuff is pretty big.
But not big on the order of $500,000.
No, no.
$20,000 is gonna do
And
it.
then I was wondering about the computers. Oh, never mind. I'm looking at the function line. Never mind. Forget it.
So I'll ask the question, does the board want to reduce staff?
That's the question.
That's the question.
Right.
I will tell you, I don't agree with that approach. I don't agree with, and I was clear about this in previous years when we started high school conversations years ago. I do not want that to impact the students that are here. So I would be steadfast against any reductions in staffing
Yeah,
and try to.
I'm just bringing it out because I kind of agree with him that why are we spending a whole bunch of money on programs when we have highly qualified teachers who can develop their own curriculum? But when I look at this, I only see the math program and I know the literacy program. Nobody else does. And the literacy one we've been doing for a long time.
The flip side of that is we're gonna spend more stipending the teachers to give them the time they need to create their own curriculum than it probably does for us to buy the curriculum.
No, that's your job.
I will say, like,
I don't agree with that.
this is the draft presentation I'm working on. My calculations is that this is one category. Curriculum, library, co-curricular, and tech is 2% of our overall budget.
Right, so it's pretty much nothing.
Correct.
Right.
So, yes, could you make a few cuts here and there? The big chunks are 50% of our budget goes to DCS teacher, staff, salaries, and benefits. The next biggest chunk is special ed at 17%. High school is 16%. Transportation is 9%. And then administration, like the SAU stuff, attorneys, insurance is 3%. And then everything else is lower. So I mean, I agree with you. And I think, one thing that I talked about when I ran for school board was that I would, abide by what the voters wanted for high school. But I didn't want it to impact DCS.
Right.
And I still maintain that that is my position. I don't want the additional high school options to impact
There's another
the
wall
elementary
coming.
school.
There's another wall coming to the tax rate next year.
I know.
It's coming anyway, but I'm just saying there's another.
The bottom line is we haven't raised taxes in a long time. So of course,
No, and
Taxes are gonna
the
go up.
board of selectmen was using the resources they had to help keep the tax
Right.
rate low.
Right.
They used the tools they had to do it, which
I agree.
is fine, but the Piper came and the Piper wanted to get paid. And the Piper's not done getting paid yet.
I mean, it's frustrating. You see all the healthcare costs go up. You see all this stuff go up. It's, it's frustrating, but it's what we have to live with.
There's
We have
a
no control over it.
damn thing we can do about it.
Can I just give Ellen one little piece of information, because I was curious?
Please.
So the transportation is up 123, but it's gonna be overspent 99 this year.
Yeah, I did see
So
that.
it's not,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
just wanted you to know that.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I was a little confused because there were two different categories,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And, that's not to say that we can't look at the budget very closely. Like Sorry, I got it. I'm an independent lady. Thanks, though. Thank you for the chivalry, though. There are, certainly things that we could talk about cutting. Do we remove another bus like we did last year?
Well, we tried, but that got put down. We still have that bus, we tried.
If you get, because it was in the default, yes. Right.
And I think we're gonna need, if there's some level of high school choice next,
They need that bus,
we may need that.
regardless of whether it's available.
Right,
That's true.
I don't see any cuts. If anything, I see us being a little shy than we need to be, and I think we need to have those hard conversations in another couple of weeks when we hopefully have something a little more cast and concrete.
One thing we flagged last time was attorneys.
Probably gonna need more of those.
We overspent that line by 10,000 in school year 22-23. We did try to increase it last year, I believe, but we got the default,
How
so.
much did we overspend at the previous? We tried to increase last year because we overspent at the previous, like we've been
It's always
overspending
overspent.
that. We always overspend that one.
So
What line is that on? That's it,
it's on page 10.
Page 10, thank you.
It's a whole bunch
I
of
missed the
money.
line.
I know, me too.
Child labor.
What they do in Japan.
Like 2/3 of the way down.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably not the place I was looking for extra money this year.
Sure. I just know that
I'm gonna
we
go looking for it elsewhere.
flagged it.
Could
I
you-
don't see it going away.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, please.
Patty, could you explain to me on page 17, I don't understand what the grant expenditures is. It's like the second from the bottom.
So even though you're getting a grant, you still have to put it in your appropriations, the money in the appropriations, and then it gets offset by the revenue that comes in from the grants.
So where it says, it says that a budget increase is 159,000, what would that be?
I will check with Amber, but I'm pretty sure she will budget for what we know we're getting for grant funds at this point in time. So we may have already had some estimated grants, or our grants may have gone up in some area, like Title I, for example, and she would put the amount that we anticipate getting. I think that's how she does it, but I can double check for you.
All right.
That's definitely an Amber question to make sure.
Anyone else have any discussion, any things they want to talk about?
I would just throw the actual bottom lines as we currently see them for anybody that watches the recording.
Okay.
It doesn't hold us. Just so you know.
I have the wrong one.
December 5th is when this goes in front of the budget committee?
So it's
The following, I think it's the
Following,
12th.
the 12th.
12. I'm just looking at their thing.
You only
Oh,
have
they
one-
received it.
one more
We
meeting.
have one more
They received
meeting.
it, okay. All right.
If we receive some information in the meantime, we could always call a special meeting if we need to.
Yes.
That meeting's 3 weeks from now.
Yes,
So we got-
because
there was
there's
an
a
extra
bonus
Wednesday.
Wednesday in November, which might be fortuitous. Okay, so the 2024-2025 proposed budget grand total, for those who are interested, $18,251,511. the proposed default budget, 18,174,791. That is for the proposed budget, it's an increase of 1,504,900. For the difference between the default budgets, it is 1,428,180. Okay. Anything else that we want to talk about budget-wise?
You open the floor to.
Yes, that will be the next item. Okay, as promised, we will open the floor to the NBC members who are here and have questions, comments, etc.
If they have it.
None?
None.
Not at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Now we are on to warrant articles.
Start.
Yes.
So what we have and what we know at this point is that article number 1 will be your budget. We don't have the numbers to fill in yet, but that's, the language is drafted and it's pretty standard language. The next article, we do have, the paraprofessionals master agreement is up. We are currently negotiating. So those numbers will be filled in once we bring a proposal back to the board and that is ratified. So that is a for sure number that we'll be working on. And I think the next few, I think Ashley just took from last year for discussion purposes, so that, and just put zeros in there. So if you wanted to add any money to these funds, or you want to talk about what you might do, and then you need to decide if it would be from surplus or from taxation.
What surplus? I'm just kidding. It's a rhetorical question.
And then don't forget, you have to put them in order that you want them
And we
funded
have
at some point.
Article 3 should be the special meeting if the.
If the contract fails, yeah,
fails.
that's, yeah. Yes.
What's the difference between 4 and 6, building renovation and site improvement fund and school building repair trust fund? You've had this conversation before.
Last year.
Yeah.
It was a
It
doozy.
hinges on what-
It's on to the same to me.
It hinges on how you define repairs.
One is repairs, one is to make, I
Improvements.
think enhancements maybe is a better way.
Updates. Updates are
Right, so
not
if we
repairs.
wanted to update the electrical
System.
system,
All right.
that's an update, not a repair.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, yes.
And we certainly don't need to pay the plan expendable trust fund.
Right, we can cross up.
Yeah, we can
And
cross off the
although,
paving.
that being said,
Or you could
It's
put
gonna go-
money,
Treat it.
right.
it's gonna go full cycle again, and at some point, you're gonna have to get back into a plan
Yeah.
to, we've got
You have to
years.
treat it like,
See it
We seal
every
it,
so often.
which is a good way to do crack sealing, which Chris puts in his, yes, he carries some crack sealing in his maintenance budget, but yes, I mean, we should be looking at down the road. You don't wanna close that.
So is it worth just putting in 25,000 every year for the next 7 years until we need it?
So you have
probably not a bad idea.
a pile. The front lot's gonna be a long while, but you've probably got another 5 to 10 years on the rest of the paving before you have to start getting it again.
How long?
It'll 5 to 10. It'll be a top coat. I mean, it's currently, maybe a little more than that, because it's currently 7 and 8 years old. Was the last time we did the back lot. It was since I've been on the board. It was when I first started, so 8 years, and then phase 2 would have been 7 or 9, because it's, 8 and 7. So you probably got solid 10, but sometime between 15 and 20, you're probably gonna have to retop it.
I wouldn't put it first on in the work.
No.
It's like the way that it's
End of it.
always discussed in this town. Everybody knows paving's an issue. So to just have it there as like the last article every time,
Just keep
like
seeing it.
15,000 a year or something, 20,000
And
a year.
I think 25K a year is probably, if you do that long enough, you'll have something.
Well, you might be needing to expend money to seal it and stuff too, though.
Yeah.
I just looked in his budget, I didn't see anything for that.
Yeah, I mean, you can, yes, crack sealing and whatnot to extend the life, obviously.
Right.
You know, painting, he is in the budget typically when he needs to paint, he puts it in the
So
budget.
is that something Chris should add to the budget? Because I don't see it.
Painting,
No, crack seal.
crack sealing, I think it's probably, it's not necessary right now to any massive extent, so I don't think that's why you don't see it there. I do agree.
Getting ahead of it.
I do agree with Nate, maybe nest egging that up a little bit for down the road.
I don't disagree with you. I do worry about nest egging trust funds this year, to be honest with you.
It's a bad year to do it.
Like, I completely agree, and I think we need to remain committed to fixing the building, doing necessary repairs. I'm just not sure.
What we have seen historically is warrant articles for the last number of years, warrant articles passed. But
I feel like this year will be different, but I don't know. I mean, I guess the worst thing that happens is that it doesn't get funded this year. There's not real.
And either whether that's through a no vote or through a yes, but it's at the bottom,
But
there's no surplus left and it doesn't get funded.
and you don't
But to
have,
put it there and to just indicate that we're thinking about it, it's planning ahead, we're trying to be ahead of it. It's a need that we all acknowledge in this town.
I don't think you write anything out of surplus this year, because you just not raise and appropriate, unfortunately.
Oh, you would raise it.
Right,
I would-
I don't know that we should raise and appropriate
Right, I
this
would do
year.
that. I would do it as a surplus, then
Right.
maybe it gets funded, maybe not.
Yeah, that's a better way.
But there is no surplus. So
Well, we
you
don't
throw
know that
effort-
precise. There might be 25,000 in surplus.
Well, that's the bottom of the priority list. There are other items on that list we need to
Sure.
consider adding funds for a few other items. Special education trust fund, we should probably go through a little bit further.
Yes, I agree with you.
So, and that you need to do, I would say you're gonna wanna do that as a raise and appropriate,
Yes.
because we wanna bolster that.
And when I gave you the 219 number, I forgot about the 100 that hasn't been transferred yet. So that'll be 319.
In special ed?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. But it will be near empty potentially this year. Okay.
That's good. So are you just looking for the ones that we wanna have a further discussion about?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really like brainstorming and
So
figuring out what priorities
I
are.
think you wanna discuss the special education trust fund, you wanna, if we wanna continue improving the facility the way we have for the last few years, as much as this maybe isn't the year to ask, so maybe you don't ask for as much, but you need to, for us to plan projects to effectively occur when we want them to occur, we always have to be
I agree.
funding a year ahead of projects.
I agree, because all the talk was about, things that need to be done to DCS, and then high school choice came, and
But we're doing it. I mean, the
Took all the
things that
money, right,
DCS
right.
needs are
Right.
getting done.
so we need to take care of the school too.
Yeah, so, but we have to fund that. We have to fund the warrant, or we have to add money into the fund, sorry. Always, we need to stay a cycle ahead.
Yeah.
So that the money is there, so we can plan projects when we already have money to do it. So
So in the warrant article, is that something where we should be trying to raise some money for like building renovation, site improvement?
I think, well, yes, we have the two trust funds,
Right.
and the fund we've been, and I'm gonna cross them.
Are they blank right now?
On your draft warrant articles, they are. Yeah, she just put zeros
So,
for discussion.
If you look in the
Yes,
budget, it will
it's here
have them
somewhere.
listed.
but we are probably going to want to raise 400K for the next wave of big projects. solar, depending upon how we choose to handle it. And then it's the HVAC upgrades if we're trying to stay on plan.
Do we do solar as a separate warrant article?
It also depends on how we do it, right?
It depends on how you do it. Because it could come out of pocket or it could not, depending on how you decide to do it.
But if we do a power purchase, we'll see if I learned anything. You feasibly are gonna be purchasing within a few years. So
Right, so you
then,
have to start
do
putting
you
money aside.
put money away even,
I think the best way for us to continue making the improvements is to continue funding that primary fund we set up. Just to keep drawing off of it as we're making these improvements.
Solar will give you some revenue too. So if you start saving money, you can put that money in an account.
I don't disagree, but I worry about how we message that to the community, what the priorities
So
are.
you say that's the next projects on deck are the solar and the HVAC upgrades. But, so if you put a warrant article in for solar, and
Right.
the warrant article fails, we don't get solar. So it dies on the
But
vine.
does that impact whether we should do solar? Like if the community doesn't want us to pursue solar, is that something we should not be doing?
But is that because is it this year, is it because the community specifically doesn't want you to pursue solar, or is it this year specifically because Piper got paid?
But does it matter?
Your roof is warranted for a year.
Right,
That's the issue.
we have a 1-year window.
Right.
Can't you put that information in the warrant article
You
too?
can, but by funding the facilities repair article and just being clear, this is the next intent is to do solar. It maintains a level of flexibility for the board to be able to, because if you put it on a warrant article and the town says no solar, would that kill a power purchase? So you lose that
Well,
flexibility.
I guess it would depend on how you word the
How
warrant
you word
article.
it,
but
yeah.
We would
could-
have to
we could
make up our mind if we wanted to power purchase or buy it.
We also,
Yeah.
would-
Before a warrant article.
Before the warrant.
We have to make up our mind.
but we would also really need to have the bid done
Yes.
prior to the warrant articles, you have a dollar.
I think you would need to put the full amount. You can't plan to save, because
Right.
if you have to purchase it on the 5th year and you don't get that warrant article
Right.
funded each year, then you're stuck with a big
Unless
bill with no
you
money.
draw it out of that facility.
Right.
repair fund.
Correct.
That's why I think you just continue to bolster that one
Is
fund,
that a facility
Zero
repair?
facility improvement,
Improvement.
Site improvement.
site
Yeah,
improvement
that's
fund.
That's
But
not
you-
for
that
us to
still could
decide,
not-
that's for the trustees to decide. So we would need to decide, get that decided, not by us, but by the powers that be, before we make this decision.
I just think rather than adding 5,000 other different things, I think you just keep putting money into the big pot and fix the building out of the big pot. You make improvements to the building out of the 2 big pots.
And that's fine. I guess I would be concerned that we make the number too big and then it doesn't get voted on anyway. And then we don't get solar either way. Like
Right. And
potentially people would be interested in solar as a project,
if they know it's gonna save them money down the road.
right,
For sure.
but not other building improvements this year.
Not to mention it's the right thing to do.
Right, and a power purchase agreement, if there's no money out of pocket, if you went the route of a power purchase agreement and there's no outlay, that doesn't require a warrant article, that just would be action of the board.
But we would have to start saving money to pay for it whenever it.
But now you're chunking it, right? So say
Yeah.
you're 50,000, whatever it may be.
I just feel like slightly uncomfortable obligating the town to that before we know if they would support it. Like,
I mean, if they would support solar.
yeah,
I mean, they did support the warrant article.
that's true.
So we had a warrant article that said that we would look into it. So that was
That
passed.
doesn't cost any money though.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, at least shows that a majority was interested in solar.
We're also interested in a new building here, but then when they see the price tag, things change.
Yeah. Well, I think you'd have to have like when you would be, when it'd be paid off, how much money you'd be making. I mean, that information has to be in the warrant
Right,
article.
we need to get that
Right,
analysis.
it's gotta be in
Even that, you can't get done until the bids come back,
Right.
which, I mean, it's Thanksgiving. We won't see bids back before, warrant articles are due when?
January,
Yeah.
first week of
You're
January?
not gonna get bids back and reviewed and processed by first week of January.
Right.
You'd be lucky to get to that point for a project like that. End of January realistically, because it's gonna take time. So that also is your inhibiting factor, unless you just put money in, or assume you're doing a power purchase, in which case you look at it a different way.
Yeah, I don't think we really need to have this discussion right now, because we can't make any decisions till we know what.
No, but I think we, the things that we should discuss, whether it's the next meeting, Articles 4, is the special education trust, the 2 building trust funds.
Yeah.
I think we should put a warrant article on to buy the modulars and just stop the bleeding there. I'm not gonna die on that hill, but I think we should.
I also think we should discuss whether we do a tuition trust fund similar to Barrington. You know, when we're talking about tuition amounts that are $20,000 per student, if a family with 2 high school students joins our school before, after we make the budget, a $40,000 cost is not nothing, especially when we're operating currently with like no real wiggle room in the budget. So I wonder whether we should consider a tuition trust fund to account for any overages between the time we do the budget and start school. How we would fund that, I don't know. But something to think about. I'm adding it to my list.
Wish list.
Yes.
Any appetite for the technology fund? There's 21,000 in there right now.
I don't think I have any this year.
I think that's it.
What would you like us to do with the warrant articles? Nothing.
You don't have to do anything
Okay. Cool.
unless you have.
I feel like you want to say something, Nate.
Nope.
Okay, just a deep breath.
Budget season.
Budget season. Anything else on warrant articles? It's a tough discussion to have when
Missing information.
we're missing a lot of information, our budget's looking very tight for this year.
Do we need to meet? Our next meeting is in December on,
The 6th.
should we meet last week of November? Hopefully with information, or should we tentatively say that we're gonna meet?
You can hold the evening and then if you get
with hopes that
I would
we can-
encourage people to hold the evening. And then,
the 28th,
Oh,
or the
it's the last
29th, right?
Wednesday.
yes, the last Wednesday. Bonus Wednesday. Obviously, we would need to post it by next Wednesday. No, we only have to, whatever.
Next Monday.
Next,
A week from next Monday.
yeah. I would like to post it a week in advance, so people can attend if they would like.
I guess the other option is you can post it and then cancel it if you post it, and the first meeting maybe cancel it.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't have to be posted though for.
Or you hit Thanksgiving and all that
yeah,
stuff. so-
Thanksgiving, yeah. So I would
Right.
like to sort of make a decision by that early next week, if that works for people. I would personally hold your calendar. Hold the night. I'm hopeful, but cautious that we will have a meeting that night. All right, anything else from immediate business? Okay, then we are back to public comments.
Nancy Shue, Pleasant Hill Road. First, I want to thank Linda for doing some math work and finding out that the school is not as the driving force this year with the increase, although you have a bigger budget. But
Give
I
us a
wanted
year.
to, what?
It'll be us next year.
Wanted to thank Linda for that. I guess I want to wish you luck. I don't know how you're gonna educate the town. I like that I'm hearing you are putting together a presentation. It's getting the people to come to hear it, to understand. But if any year is necessary to really, really pinpoint the areas that have gone up and to give as much information as can be as to why they go up. I know there are some funds like special ed, you can't say, well, blah, blah. But high school, you can really say that's it. And I do not support this, but I'm just gonna throw it out there just as a little giggle. As far as transportation, we could go back to the days when my kids went to high school and there were no high school buses. We got the kids there. I take that back. With Tyler, to begin with, there was a bus that you could pay by the day. So if he decided to ride the bus, I think I paid $1 for a one-way trip.
I paid by the month.
Yeah, then it went, you could pay by the month, and that bus went away and you had to pay everything. But the other and I really do not support this, so I don't know why I'm saying it, but just one thing that I was surprised when looking at different things, we do not have to provide transportation for elementary school kids that live within a 2-mile radius of the building. But it's just kind of interesting that is part of, I was looking on the Department of Education. So again, I support transportation, I think especially high school, in some ways maybe more because the elementary kids, their parents get them here. And I see that when I sub. But high school, if we don't get them there, then they don't go sometimes. And I think that's really sad. But there are alternatives to go back to even having families have to pay for that high school transportation. Was done before.
Thank you.
Other public comments?
Anyway, before I go back up. Bobby Ann, 5 Brown Road. For the solar, I agree with Kendra. I think that sadly, seeing what's happened over the past couple of years, warrant articles do get a lot of information across. So for solar, yes, it's nice that you're putting it in that big fund for a while, but when you're ready to do the project, that warrant article that passed was to look into it. So the town approved you looking into it and working with the town to find solar options so that we could better educate ourselves. It wasn't like, check, yes, pay all that money to that. I know you've had a couple of citizens that have already come up to here with information they found on their own that was like, oh, are we sure we want to do this, especially with the roof issues and stuff? So if you do a warrant article, you can have in there the warranty time, like how long this is really going to last and how much we're going to pay with everything you find from the bids and what you decide to put in there. So I agree with you 100% to give more information on that. And yeah, it'd be great if people show up, but we know that people are busy. For the tuition trust idea, I keep saying this, I don't know if you get it, like DCS, it's about 19,000 for a kid to go here. So like a tuition trust, do you mean like tuition for all kids in our town? Because that would budget for the people moving in with elementary kids too. Like, I don't know why we're like separating high school so much. We're like, other towns don't do that. It's like, if you do a tuition trust, you could consider that too. Or not, if you decide not to, but thanks so much.
Thank you.
Real quick, Leah McHugh, Harvey Road. So I do want to touch on the technology subscriptions again. So $27,789, that's going towards, well, they're canceling Brain Pop, but we're talking just several. That's making up a pretty good chunk. I would say that's making up a pretty good chunk. And then you have Eureka, which is also $12,500. You've got Zern, GimKit is a big one, that's back on the subscription. So there really is a lot, and this is as early as kindergarten. I really would take a look at what subscriptions are being used, where they're being used, who's using them. And then you have, your Alma and your regular ones taking up 47,000. That really should be looked at. There's something else I was going to say, and now it's completely escaped my brain. The live feed tonight, there's obviously a lot of people that couldn't get in, so that's
And I
uproar.
was gonna alert sorry, I didn't.
That's okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all I want to say. There's a lot of people that obviously can't make these meetings and they're trying to view them from home. And it's pretty frustrating. And I think they feel like their points aren't getting across or they're not being heard. So I don't know. I think there's a really big disconnect between the school and the town right now, or in its community members. And I think we could bridge that a lot better. But I do hope that we really look at this budget and we see really how things are being done, and look at our curriculum and look at what teachers are actually missing, the items that they need, and what we're using for technology subscriptions and all of that. Because if you really get down into the nitty gritty of it, I think there are some things that could possibly change. But I know it's a lot of work. I do want to support the technology trust fund as well. I think that's obviously a big part of our curriculum. So we should be, thinking about these Chromebooks need to be replaced and, all these other things that are coming. So I think it's important to think about that. You have like $324,000 right now in special ed. So obviously, because we just had that $100,000 deposit. But just send me an email if you guys need it ever updated for trust funds. I have all of that information. Yeah, that's it.
So the meeting has been recorded and the camera video is on. Sorry, Earl, for interrupting your 3 minutes. With that.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
interrupt
all right.
Earl.
No, it's good. Keep going.
And
Don't have it
And it
for
was,
minutes.
I always try to log on with my computer and it said host needs to let you in, but again, I couldn't, as the host, I couldn't let anybody in. So then Earl said that it said I had to join, so I went back to the meeting, I joined and everybody came in, but they are just listening, there's no video. So I don't, not sure what happened with that.
What
but-
happened to calling Tim in? Did the board make a decision on that?
And I believe Brooke has reached out to Tim, I don't know what her.
Obviously, we need an AV expert because I don't know what's going on with your stuff. I
Yeah,
have no idea.
yeah, okay, I apologize.
Yeah, thank you.
There's-
Well, at least it's recorded. That's good.
And there are quite a few people that joined the meeting,
Will
which
you post something on Facebook that the meeting got recorded?
Yep. And it will be posted first thing tomorrow as soon as we can. It usually takes about 20, it says 24 hours to render from WebEx, but by the morning, Brooke is usually able to post it. And now I know how to do that, so I can post it if need be.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Following on that, I guess there are a number of options. I don't know if you're looking at it, but that the town has a facility that works just fine. You even know how to run it, don't you?
Mhm.
There you go. Yeah, the comment's been made in the past that you want to do it in your house. Your house is Deerfield. And if you've got a facility that can get you to talk to all the people in your house, you ought to use it. It's frustrating for people. It doesn't help the PR. It's not a working together kind of thing to just say, we're going to do our own. It would be I know, a psychologically difficult kind of thing to do maybe, but it would be helpful for the community to take advantage of something that's already been done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okey-dokey. I will make a motion to go into non-public session pursuant to NHRSA 91-A:3, Section 2, small letters A and K. Seconded by Zach. Roll call.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
No. I'm not, I don't have another day on my calendar, but I also have some grandmother jobs I have to do.
How's that pay?